Often in games discourse, we attempt to discern what makes a game fun. Other mediums have a varied plethora of goals to reach towards, but video games, more often than not, primarily focus on being fun. And then there's League of Legends. Now, I'm not making a rant or hate video. I genuinely love League of Legends. I play at least a few rounds of draft with my friends every weekend. I read the cohesive and consistent lore. I even actually spend time reading the patch notes. Yet I cannot help but feel as though this love comes from a dark and perverse part of me, like a young high school sophomorette identifying with Dolores Hayes. League of Legends can be a fun game. There is no greater pleasure than slowly whittling down a Garen main's health while staying at full because he does his all-in on my Wukong clone every single time. And the feeling of smite sniping a kindred mark right beneath the Warwick's nose because I knew for a fact that he would gun for it the moment it appeared, and then leaping away scot-free is simply sublime. But that is not the majority of my experience with League. No, I can genuinely say that I revile League of Legends. I have legitimately felt bad recommending it to people, as if I was recommending heroin to them. Before playing League, you're like, oh, how could the streamer get so mad at a video game that they punched a hole through a monitor? And then you become a seasoned veteran of 5 Summoner's Rift games, and you wonder what kind of Tiberian monk, Joe Rogan experience type discipline regimen are they on to have kept it in so well? And now I should know. Punching bag just to play this fucking game. But it's when I stop to think about my time spent with League that I start to realize, maybe I don't love League in spite of how angry it makes me. Maybe I love League because of how angry it makes me. And I don't think I'm alone on this. I think there's a substantial part of the fanbase of this game that seems to be dedicated to the anger it can evoke. The game being intensely infuriating is the fundamental root of the culture. I am not suggesting that the Riot Games team is purposely provoking their audience. I am sure that their intent is to make a game enjoyed like any other. I am also, obviously, not saying that everyone that enjoys this game does so out of hate. This is not a critique. This is simply an analysis of how I enjoy this media franchise. Let's start with the game itself. I think a lot of the annoyance from the game comes from the MOBA genre as a whole. The reliance on teammates, an overabundance of positive feedback loops, and the rock, paper, scissors design. Allow me to relay a hypothetical game to you, which while never happening in its entirety, I struggle to think of a game that has not had one or more of these elements. The average game on the Rift goes like this. You load into a 4-man draft. Any amount of known teammates less is complete suicide. You wait 5 minutes to find the game because not a soul would ever dare solo queue in this video game. I mean, why do you think the joke of that one guy in the Discord always begging for somebody to play League with him was a thing? You eventually get into Champ Select. Someone on the other team dodges because you banned the new champion that does 22% max health true damage level 2. Don't worry, it's balanced for competitive. You wait another 3 minutes and finally get into a game. You're playing against a level 600 Aurelia, while your random is a level 28 and took a grasp on Misfortune. They invade you, which you know is a bad play because your team has a better early game than theirs. You lose your red anyway, because said Misfortune hasn't even left Fountain. You lose a river fight with the half-health Ivern because he somehow has a team that will leave lane for him the moment he has vision of you. Irelia flashes her level 7 mastery after poking your mid lane once. Your friend that has even better internet than you somehow starts having connection issues. This only happens with League. You get a dragon advantage. It's Windrake's soul. The enemy bot lane is going 9-0 because of the Misfortune. The 2-1 Aurelia starts talking mad shit and all shit. As they take your Nexus, they start proclaiming that it was a jungle diff because the Ivern got a single tower with Rift Herald. And instantly, your afternoon is ruined. The most infuriating thing about League is that even if your opponent is dog shit, they still have a good chance of winning. League is like playing a game of chess, except even if your opponent trades queen for pawn, the guy playing chess next to you can just take all his pieces and put them on your board. The effect that a single teammate doing poorly can have on your game is insane. You know that Wukong and Garen scenario from before? That Garen will still have more kills than you at 25 because your friend dared to try new champion support, and now the Jinx has a 2-item lead. Now, one might say that you cannot judge a game based on its players, and that is completely correct. But other players are an integral part of the experience, and again, I am not judging the game, I am analyzing my experience. And now's a good time to mention that League is actually 2 different video games. At a competitive level, League is a numbers game, calculated, modern-day chess. At the casual level, League is a complete chaotic clusterfuck, and you might as well be playing Team Fortress. And it's not just other players that make this game frustrating. Even if things are going well, it's still rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock, and if they choose Dr. Moondye, they pull a gun on you. Cho'Gath can become unkillable if he can stall losing long enough. Shaco will kill you because your teammate kills his clone that is completely indistinguishable from the real one. Lux's whole kit is bad because her ultimate ability has the ability to kill you instantly by punishing you for getting hit with one other ability. Except I lied, her kit is just as strong as anybody else's. Fizz will always be completely invulnerable, hopping around you with a shit-eating grin. The enemy team may as well always have Elder Dragon buff, a late game-winning buff if they have Karthus. Blitzcrank's pull is instantaneous and Morgana's root lasts for the rest of the game. Nocturne can accidentally win fights he's not even in with his global nearsight. Attacking Rammus somehow hurts you more than you hurt him, and he can force you to hurt him at any time. Pyke doubles the value of a kill, completely ruining the kill tempo the game is balanced around. Dr. Mundo is straight up a Final Fantasy boss, complete with second health bars and status effect immunity. There's a guy who has the ability to shut down a third of Champion's main or only way to deal damage, and cause the very act of walking anywhere on the map terrifying because at any point, a fourth of your health will melt away because you dared walk somewhere. And you want to know the worst part? He's not even good. He's really bad right now. Finally, there are the positive feedback loops. For those unaware, a positive feedback loop, simply speaking, is when an action becomes easier the more it is done. In League, killing minions, defeating players, and taking objectives all give you resources that make you better at killing minions, defeating players, and taking objectives. On the receiving end of this, it means that any mistake you make will be punished even harder than the immediate effects, and restrict your available viable options in the future until you catch up. And League is not devoid of negative feedback loops that allow the losing player to advance quicker to a neutral position. But because I'm not a stoic Buddhist monk one step away from escaping samsara, I still experience a negativity bias. So dying once feels about as bad as getting 2 kills feels good. The emotional neutral KD ratio is 8-5, all because you know your deaths made your opponent stronger, and if you didn't die, you could be crushing them even harder right now. And there are a million little things that, if you let them happen, are the worst experience in all of gaming, and you know that these things are balanced because they, if you had responded correctly, would have seriously lost them the game. Well, that's the other thing. If you don't respond correctly and lose because all the way at the beginning of the game, the enemy Kayn came around the corner and smited your first camp right from under you, which then sent him on a kill spiral of absolutely bodying your bot lane while you can't quite catch up, I cannot think of a more infuriating single play an enemy can do against you in any video game. And perhaps the fact that League is third person with point and click controls also passively annoys me, as right-clicking where you want to go is a bit more annoying than using directional keys, and in combination with the bird's eye view makes the champions feel just a little bit too disjointed from reactions. But a good chunk of the game-to-game annoyance comes from the fact that League of Legends is old. It's over 12 years old now. There's bound to be a drastic change in design philosophy at some point. Trying to balance the old, easy, point-and-click, empowered auto-attack champions of 2010 to the so-called 200 years mobility-based champions coming out now, all while making the new champions good enough for people to have a reason to play them while not throwing old champions under the bus, must be a Herculean task without pissing someone off. And with, as of writing, 158 champions, you can't even blame the League team because it may be quite literally impossible. And that's not even mentioning the ways that they changed the map and objectives. Which, although it never really bothers me, as I usually enjoy the changes, I'm sure frustrate a lot of people who got used to the old season of gameplay before seeing their favorite part get uprooted. The simple addition of time will make it so that eventually a change will occur that annoys you specifically. Sort of like the voting history of the average American. So alright, the game of League is a perfect concoction of minor annoyances, a death by 1,000 paper cuts to create this so-called hell video game. But that's the interesting thing, isn't it? League is well known as true hell. But it still has an incredible following. This must mean that there is either something incredibly appealing about League that counteracts the ire it causes, or that the anger is the appeal. I was watching a video by game design analyst Vars, and he had this to say in the outro of one of his videos.
I hate all these champions and wish I never would see them again, but I don't think the game would be as addictive as it was if not for them.
And something clicked within me. Here was one of the most knowledgeable people about the design of League on YouTube talking about his enjoyment of hating this game. And then looking through his catalog of videos, I realized that nearly every single video is talking about some other part of the game that people complain about. Now, the annoying parts of the game can't be the only interesting thing to explore, right? But that's what drives views, because people love to hate this game. And while being angry will always drive more clicks when talking about any topic, I believe this channel and creator that have been devoted for the past year to exclusively thinking about League is the first time I've ever heard something positive being said about this game. A brief scroll through tweets mentioning League shows besides people being horny, that there is this obsession with the way League leaves people. Broken, disheveled, depressed even. There is no visual accompaniment for this because on the day that I am editing this part of the video, people are so horny on Twitter about League of Legends that it's actively preventing me from demonstrating my point. And the thing is, this presentation of League players is more often than not a self-assessment. This is how League players see themselves, and they love it. They post memes making fun of themselves so much that they repeat themselves, and thus risk becoming intensely unfunny on Twitter. The last place anyone would ever want to make a minor mistake like overplaying a joke. And this sense of camaraderie made with his intense wrath too. Think about the most infamous clips from the most infamous streamer, Tyler1. I have never seen the clip of Tyler becoming the second person ever to become challenger in all 5 roles. An absolutely monumental task. However, I have seen this clip of him losing his mind over the game at least 100 times.
It sucks playing the shit! And I'm fucking addicted! So I can't quit! I'm so sick of this shit!
Look at the sheer anguish on his face. Look at the absolute contempt he has for the company that made it. He even says,
and I'm fucking addicted!
This perfectly encapsulates the feeling of playing this game. And although Tyler has gotten incensed with many a game, he is most popular for his League content, and therefore logically reflects this community the most. Tyler1, with all that fury over losing, all that bashing of teammates, all that sheer awesome wrath towards the company, encapsulates the League player. We, as a community, see ourselves within him, and we love him for that. Before I talk about the reason I think why we as a community chose to interact with this game in the way that we do, what the joy of hate is, there is one more aspect of this game I'd like to talk about, and I feel like it'll relate to a lot fewer people. I'm going to explore a specific part of the lore that really appeals to me. Let's talk about Aatrox. Aatrox was a Shuriman Ascended, a citizen so noble and so patriotic to their country as to be granted the right to continue his greatness beyond his lifespan. Aatrox was so inspirational to the people that the other Ascended would always gather to his cause. But even as a god, Aatrox's mind was still human, and when the cosmic, existential threat of the Void necessitated him to fight it, it forever corrupted him. When Shurima fell, he and his Ascended comrades lost their purpose and began to fight, as humans do. Now referred to in whispered tongues as Darken, this fighting scared the people of the new empires, and so an aspect, an avatar for one of the actual gods, gave the people a method that contained the Darken within their weapons. And although this is never stated directly in the lore as far as I'm aware, Aatrox states that he chose the blade, so it is likely that they were under some sort of pretense that they would be set free from this life of immortal warring. But they weren't set free. They were trapped within the weapon, now unable to die even through vulnerability. Within the weapon it is black as the void, and suffocating, not just in how dark it is, but in the fact that one literally cannot breathe. Aatrox describes the feeling as the desperate need to breathe but being unable to, because there is nothing there. And time passes normally within the blade. For hundreds of years, Aatrox was continuously choked and isolated with only his thoughts, until he discovered that he could feel something. When a person walks near the blade, he can feel their life. Using magic he learned while warring Darken, he possessed one of these bodies, and he was set free again. He could breathe again. But this body was on a timer. It falls apart while he moves, dropping pieces off of him every second. He learns to shape the body into an imitation of his former self, a mockery, but he never learns to keep the body together. And so it is unclear what exactly motivated him to do what he does next. It could be that the seed of insanity that was planted within him during his war against the Void finally took hold of him. It could be the humiliation of being hated by the people who seemed to love him all those years before. It could be how the gods seemed to mock him, not only in his disgusting new form, but how they lied to his face while promising him hope. It could be that he lost his mind after not only being isolated, but also having the horrific weight of needing to breathe pressing upon him for hundreds of years. Renekton has reverted back to being a savage animal, and he only had to experience half of that. It could be the fear that if he does not find a body soon, he will have to go back to that place for God knows how long. Or it could be a compilation of all these things, but he decides to kill. Not just for new bodies, not just to take revenge on the gods, but to destroy everything. After all, once everything is gone, things will only be as bad as what he is doomed to anyway. and perhaps something out there can truly kill him. I love Aatrox, a man beaten down by gods, both Lovecraftian and divine, fallen farther in perception than any other man could ever dream of, cursed to be a puppet of flesh and bone on a quest to destroy everything. That's the most metal shit I've ever heard, and he has the means to do it. It doesn't come through in the game, but he is massive, a hulking juggernaut. He is so skilled in combat that he has killed the aspect of war. He has only a few stories written about him, but in the ones that there are, the absolute horror over the prospect of going back into the blade is palpable. He is an anxious, troubled wreck, completely terrified of his own existence, and the voice actor does a tremendous job selling how much he despises Zoe for making him this way.
Aspect of change! Now you die!
It gives me chills. It's so good. But then, in-game, he says,
A lightning squirrel? Ooh, a shadow warrior. How edgy. What is property? Why did this dead hamster want me off of it?
This is it. This is the thing that this whole section was building to. Even the lore of this game is infuriating. They made the coolest character ever written, and they ruined him by making him a joke-cracking, cocky villain of the week edgelord. When I read about his tragic story and his unimaginable pain, and then went back to the game to hear him say, "What is property? Aspect of I got so legitimately angry that I tenderized my bed by beating on it so hard. I subbed the best I have in years, and it's not like I don't think you can change the tone of something for the sake of a more cohesive, lighthearted game. But in-game, he is so boring, and it's no wonder nobody really likes him as much as I do. I blame the fact that there's essentially nothing written about him on this and this alone." So, why do we love League if it causes us so much anger? Why do I go back to the lore, even though I know it broke my heart? For the former, after a lot of thought, I think it's because it's an easy way to get that experience. There aren't really many situations in life you can get angry, and when there are, it's usually a bad idea to let yourself do so. If you flip out on customers at work, you won't have a job anymore. Flip out on your significant other, and you hurt them, and eventually yourself. But when you play video games, you can just let that feeling of wanting to scream go, before it subsides and builds up inside you. And getting angry just in and of itself can be cathartic. It takes your mind off anything else that is happening in your life. It's strange, but I feel really relaxed after a session of anger. Even elated and giddy. When we share jokes about how this game leaves us seemingly ruined, or watch streamers that get even angrier than we do, we are sharing, just for a moment, an understanding of each other, and sometimes understanding of our fellow man is all we're looking for. And when I get upset over a character with their potential ruined, it draws me even closer to that fiction, because the fact that I think it's so cool and that there's nothing to help me explain to others why it's so cool, or how to indulge myself in it, continuously strokes my passion for it. I don't think I'd even play League if it weren't for how angry it makes me. Thank you so much for watching all the way through my video. Any feedback you might have would be greatly appreciated if you left it down in the comments. I'm still trying to figure out the tone and delivery of these videos, so any critique you might have would be greatly welcome. Make sure to share the video and subscribe if you want more content like this. I'm planning on making more analytical video essays in the future. So if you enjoyed what I made today, make sure to stick around. And go follow me on twitch.tv. The link will be down in the description. I stream there every weekend. It's a little bit awkward to stream to a viewership of 0 people, so if you could drop by, that'd be wonderful. And I swear, I will never talk about or stream League of Legends ever again. You have my promise on that. Alright, thank you guys for watching the video. Bye-bye.